everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, here today to talk to you about Transitions, the new album from the Finnish band Arche, coming off of Transcending Obscurity Records. And some funeral doom. To be honest, this is one of my favorite little micro genres within extreme metal music. And I've been kinda waiting for the right opportunity to talk to you and nerd out about funeral doom with you. And in my opinion, here, Arche does a really good job of adding a very compelling piece to the funeral doom catalog. You got 3 tracks here. It's about a 35-minute runtime. Long tracks. And the band uses every second of it to absolutely bombard you with these mournful, bleak, and desperate atmospheres. You have all the emotive hallmarks of a great funeral doom record. And while sticking to the formula, slow riffs. If you've never listened to funeral doom, I don't think you understand what I'm saying when I say slow riffs. You got the death growls, and you have the lyrics filled to the brim with despair. It's here. You got it. But I don't think it would be fair to say that Arche is just that. I do think Arche finds their own kind of niche within funeral doom. And does a good job of sticking out with their very compelling melodic flourishes in between the gaps of this record. You got some cool riff variation, some intriguing drum work within the funeral doom typical approach. The first track here, Reverential Silence, actually begins very quietly. It eases you in with this calming hiss that gradually is kind of met with some very methodical percussion and some very sparse acoustic strumming. And this all leads you into that very first distorted doom metal riff at about the 1 minute mark. And from here, this point, things begin to move forward. At a snail's pace, of course. And here, each pulverizing note from the guitar is experienced at a very visceral level. In between each chord, the band injects some very subtle but impactful melodic touches that fill these kind of long gaps with just enough to keep that waiting period interesting. And all of these kind of touches are strategically placed and not just played to be played. The band displays a lot of patience and restraint here. The vocals are pretty grizzled and deeply saddened with these morose death growls. It's heavy in a very inward focused way. And when this track switches to the more somber acoustic passage, it feels angelic. Like there's a glimmer of revelation above this chasm of hopelessness that we have been swimming in since the start of the record. But it's just a tease. It's an illusion. This is a very temporary feeling. And then the music is brought back down. And you're brought back to reality, and you are brought back to this record's absolutely crushing and devastating and natural state. The percussion here remains very skeletal, which is typical in funeral doom music. But the percussion, how it's used, is very effective. Every cymbal ring kind of sings at you. Every snare shout just kind of reverberates in your psyche. No movement from the drummer here is wasted at all. And also, I just love how the drums are recorded. There's just a lot of clarity involved with it. And with an approach to metal like Arche's that is so minimalist, what you are rewarded with is an overwhelming amount of emotion. Each beat here oozes with feeling. On the next track, Transition. It's just that. It's this bridge track of sorts, but it's not filler. It's this acoustic piece. There's also some classical guitar runs thrown in as well. And there's such a gracefulness displayed here with some very intricate picking, and so much melancholic mood is conjured with so very little here. You get these hauntingly somber soundscapes that sort of come in and go and develop over top of this. There's just some absolutely arresting moments of devastating bliss to be found here. There's also a very captivating kind of spoken word passage that's placed with a great sense of timing and pacing. There are these ghostly choral vocals that are placed in the background and sort of actually provide the low end here, like almost like the vocals here play the role of a bass guitar. It's interesting how that is mixed together. This band displays a great demonstration and understanding of dynamics. The band knows when to get loud, when to get quiet, when to lay on the texture thick, and when not to. The last track here, In a Solace Light, brings the heaviness back in full force. After a few even intro attacks from the drummer, you get these erupting riffs that their growth seems very delayed. Like you get the initial impact from the strum, and then it begins to ring out and expand. It's an interesting tone that I really enjoy here. And some of the burning kind of lyrical guitar leads are just wonderful here. And you get this sense that the vocalist is reaching for something out of their grasp with how their growls kind of crawl out over the guitars. And I love how the harsh vocals begin to kind of harmonize with some of these faint drifting clean vocals around the 7-minute mark. Now, if you already are a fan and enjoy Funeral Doom music, you like those records from like Evokin and Skepticism and Ahab, I'm just kind of name dropping at this point, then I don't see how you wouldn't really dig this record. But if you aren't familiar with Funeral Doom at all, if I'm introducing you to the concept, I don't think this is a bad place to start, actually. Especially with its runtime. At 36 minutes, it's all packed together really tightly, which is not always the case with Funeral Doom. In fact, a lot of Funeral Doom records are these like meant to be these marathon listening experiences. That's not Arche's approach, and I think while maintaining the nature of Funeral Doom makes it a little more accessible. An accessible entryway into Funeral Doom. This record is heavy. It's punishing and it's depressing. In a good way. And I like that about it. But with that, there's also a beauty to find within it, and a solace also to be discovered. It's one of those records that you kind of put on and let flow over you. It's one of those records that you feel as much as you listen to it. And those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed this review, go ahead. I'd really appreciate if you would hit that like button. Feel free, it really helps get the video out there. Subscribe if you'd be so kind. That would mean the world to me. If you have any thoughts about this record, want to talk about Funeral Doom, have any other questions, want to just talk about metal, please leave a comment. I love interacting with those. I have a Twitter you can follow. Link to that is in the bio of this YouTube channel. My name is Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh. Keep it metal. And here I am, signing off.